Hey class, I'm going to walk you through the getting your stills and audio into Premiere and then setting it up and even exporting it out, and so that you have a complete project. So if you work in Premiere for your final project, you'll be good to go. So open Premiere. Once you have it open, let's go to New Project. Let's call the project whatever you want. I'm just going to say last name _ stills. And I'm going to go ahead and browse. Oh, and by the way, the first thing I would do, I would just move all of your clips from your SD card or your hard drive, or if they're in the cloud, onto your desktop. So move all your clips onto your desktop. I've got actually mine right here in a folder called Stills and Audio. Got it all in one folder, so it'll import nicely into Premiere. So I'm actually going to change my location of where it's going to save all my files, including my Premiere file. I'm going to make a new one. So I'm just going to go and basically save it to my desktop. So I'm going to say new folder, and I'm just going to call it Audio and Stills. And I'm going to hit create. I did not spell that right. I do not know how to spell stills. And then I'm going to hit create. Choose, and so now it's going to save everything I do in Premiere to my desktop in this folder called Audio and Stills. And I'm going to hit OK. That should open up my project screens for me here. And you're going to see at the top here, I'm working in 2018, so there might be a couple of differences. I think our school computers have 2017, but it should be relatively close here. If it's not, let me know and I'll come around and help you. But so right now I'm in the view of setting up a graphics. If I wanted to add graphics to my video, I actually want to be in the editing view. So now I'm in editing, and I'm going to go to my import media. So it's just this very first tab in the bottom here. But the first thing I need to do is I need to create a new sequence. So I'm going to click the button at the bottom, choose, and let me just do that again. The folded over piece of paper here that says new item, make sure you're on that first tab in the import section of your screen. Remember, this is your timeline. This is where you'll be viewing your video, and this is where you can see the individual clips that you import. So let's go ahead and create a new sequence by clicking on the piece of paper. Hold it, click and hold, and choose sequence. Yours are probably going to default to this ARRI, which is a real professional camera, ARRI, excuse me. But we want to be in the digital SLR. That's what we shot our stuff in, so we'll just choose that. And then you want to be in the 1080p. So choose digital SLR, 1080p, and then make sure you have the 1080p 30 frames per second chosen. So 1080p 30 frames per second, and we can just leave the name called sequence 1. That's just fine. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. And now it's created a sequence for us. So we have a place we can drop all our stuff on the timeline. So now we need to go get our files, and it's very simple to import your files. You're just going to double click right down here in this window. So just double click, and that should open up a thing to import your files. So I'm going to go find my files. They're on my desktop. They're in a folder called Stills and Audio. And because they're all in this folder, I'm just going to import the entire folder. And I'll just hit import. It'll bring everything in from that folder. And it's kind of nice. It keeps it in that folder, so everything I want is right here. So now we're ready to get started with building our stills and audio project. So the first thing I'm going to do, you can see I've got all my images here in JPEGs, and I've got my audio track right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my audio track and just drag it in to my timeline under A1 for audio. So you've got audio 1, audio 2, audio 3, video 1, video 2, video 3. So I'm just going to drop it in my audio 1, and I'm good to go. And here's my audio.
So my wife and I decided to go to Avenue Beach, and
perfect. And I am going to just give myself a little bit of room here because I want to put a title in first. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have a title image here. What you can see is just a shot of the beach, because my whole thing today is about we went to the beach on Saturday, and that's what I shot to get my compositions. So that's going to be my opening title sequence. You're going to notice when you put your pictures in, that they're really large and they're not in the same dimensions as we set up our timeline, which is 1920 by 1080p, because we want to export this as a movie, an HD movie at 920 by 1080p. And these pictures were taken at 6,000 by roughly 4,000. So my images are way bigger. We'll go back and fix that in a minute. So don't panic. Don't worry about that. We'll fix that in a minute. And so I dropped in my first image, and you can see right here, my time right here. Whenever you drop in an image, it usually defaults to 5 seconds. I'm roughly about 4:28. I'm going to leave that first image in there as just fine. So that's going to be my title sequence, my image, my image from my title, and I'll pull a graphic on the top of it here in a minute. So then from there, actually, let's do the title right now. So really simple to do the title. All you need to do, we'll go to the beginning of our timeline. I'll go back to this graphics option here, or you can go graphics, new layer text. Either way is fine. It's up to you. But I'm going to go back to my graphics window here. And if you're on the browse function right here, you'll see some samples that you can use for either basic lower thirds or basic titles. So I'm just going to grab this basic title right here. Just click it, hold, grab, drag it to your timeline, and I'm going to put it on top of my title image so that my text appears on top of it. Perfect. So that's exactly what I want. So let's go back. I'm going to here's my so I'm going to be on the edit. I need to edit my text. So this is my text right here. So to edit, I can double click, and it's basically this layer here, your title here. And I'm going to say a day at the beach. I'm going to double click it again to select the text. It all turns red so that I can change the font. That's not very beach oriented. I'm just going to take this noteworthy. That's really something quick. It looks a little more fun, like I'm at the beach. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger right here. I can make my font bigger or smaller. Maybe I'll go there. And I might reposition it a little bit so I can more see the picture there as well. Yeah, that looks good to me. I mean, I could leave it in the center. It's up to you. Actually, I think I'll leave it right there. So you can move your title around using these two parameters right here. So, all right, that's looking pretty good. I think I'll leave that alone, and I'm going to just click in my timeline to go off of that. So now I see I've got my opening image with my title. Great. So now what I want to do is start adding in the rest of my images. So I'm going to go back to my editing window here. So I'm going to go out of the graphics and back to the editing window. And here you can see I'm back here where I imported all my images. And I'm just going to, in this case, just listen to my audio. I'm just going to zoom in for a quick second. Okay. Listen to my audio and then just add my images as I talk. So they fit with the audio that I talk. So, I'm basically just talking about we went to the beach and then all the composition techniques I used. So as those roll by, I'll add my images to that. It's much similar if you got an interview and you were adding your B-roll on top and you were fitting images that fit closely to what the interviewer was talking about. So this is kind of the same idea here. So if I let this play, and to make the video play, you just can either hit right here, or I like to just hit the space bar. So to play and stop, I just hit the space bar on my keyboard. So I'm gonna hit the space bar.
So my wife and I decided to go to Avila Beach and check out the scenes there. So you always need kind of a first establishing shot of you get that first view of the ocean. It's so beautiful.
Okay, so that is my first shot. It's an establishing shot. So, and I know that I put my images in order, so I know exactly which image is going to come with the audio. Yours may not be that way. You might have to listen and then find the right image. You can always do that by previewing the image by double clicking on it, and it'll show you what it is up here. If it's also helpful, you can rename these. So say this is, I could rename this Boy at the Beach. So that way I know when I get to that in my audio, I'm good to go. And to rename it, you just double click on it, and that allows you to rename it. So if you want to view your clip up here in this window, your source window, you just double click here. If you want to change it, the name of it, so you can remember which clip is which clip when you want to drag it to the timeline, just double click on the name and you can change it there. But since I already know my images are in order of my audio, I'm just going to roll with it. So I know this first image needs to go to about right here. I'm going to pull it out all the way out here. This is a little longer than the 5 to 8 seconds, but because that's, I got a little windy here talking, I'm just going to let it roll out all the way there. So if I let my audio continue.
Beautiful. And then I was looking for some lower third shots, and I found this nice one of this boy and that kind of the beach.
So I said lower thirds there. I actually meant rule of thirds. Oops. But
That kind of the beach regulations, kind of creating this little bit of a story.
So I am going to pull, let's see, where did I stop there?
And you got to take the dog.
Okay, so right where I said so about right there, I'm going to just drag this clip all the way to out there. So this first shot was talking about rule of thirds here, and I'm dragging it out to where I match with my audio. The next shot,
and you gotta take the dog.
So it's about the dog. And so if I double click on this, I can see, oh, okay, this one's the dog, so I'm going to grab it. Good old Rico. And once again, you can see I'm just getting Rico's rear end here because my images are too large. We'll fix that in a minute.
Rico's my go-to guy here.
So that's perfect. I got the length I want on that. So I'm just going to drag in my next image. And make sure when you're dragging your images in, you need to butt them up next to each other. And you'll know they butt up when you get this little arrow at the top and they kind of magnetically just go together. So make sure that's happening. Because if you don't, then there'll be black space in between them, and you don't want that. Oops.
My go-to guy here. And then I found this nice shot of my wife looking into the ocean, giving her viewpoint of things. And then I also saw another shot that was kind of things. And then
okay, so that's the end of the shot of my wife taken from a viewpoint. Then I'm going to grab the next shot, which I know is a leading line shot.
Kind of interesting with some leading lines of these pigeons walking forward.
Maybe I'll zoom out a little bit here. You can zoom
a nice little shot
in and out with this here. I got winded there. I talked really long, so that one's going to be a little bit longer.
Shot. And then in addition to that,
and then I'm going to pull out my next image to go with the audio.
Get a close-up of some images, and I saw this birds of paradise. I've never seen one before until I moved to California. So I kind of got a nice shallow depth of field and blurred out the background.
Went really long there too. That's okay. The audio is kind of intriguing me into the image. I'm kind of explaining things, so it's okay if my clip's going a little bit longer here. I just got long-winded. And then I'm going to pull out my next shot, make sure it magnetically connects.
And then from there, we had a glass of wine, and then I saw this reflection coming off of the glass, and I thought, oh, that's perfect, it's beautiful. And then one of the last shots.
Okay, and then
one of the last shots I got was.
And then my last shot. I've got two last shots here. This is a frame within a frame shot.
Was this frame within a frame where I was basically standing on the pier, and I shot through the wood slats of the pier to see the ocean, giving me this nice frame within a frame.
Okay, so then I know that's where I'm done talking about that, and I'm pulling my last shot, which is my closing shot.
Of course, I saw this stop, and we're heading back to the car. It's time to leave, so it's the perfect way to wrap up a nice day with this photo of a nice wide depth of field, getting in the whole scene where we started and where we ended. That's our trip.
Okay. So it got really long-winded on the end there. So you probably don't have nearly as many images as I do, but so you should have your images out, and they should be matching or close to matching your audio. We've talked about You don't always want it right on the nose, but in this case, this is just an exercise for us to get used to using Premiere and matching up your audio with your picture. So, you know, you got to be careful. It's nice to have it with the audio, and then occasionally you want to mix it up as well. So I'm good now, but the one thing we really need to do is go back and fix the size of these images. They're way too big. So I'm going to just drag over the audio and my images here, because I want to select all the images, and then I'm going to shift and deselect the audio. So I essentially just clicked and drug over the clips and the audio. Remember, this is my title. I don't need to resize that. And then I shift to deselect the audio, and I still have my images clicked. Then I'm going to right click or control click on the Mac. And then you should see a thing that says set to frame size. And this will take our images and set them to the frame size, which is the 1920 by 1080. And then boom, you'll see now my images are the right size, except for, you can see I have some black on the side, so I need to go and fix that. So this is a little tedious, but I'll show you how to do it real quick. So essentially, you're gonna double click on your first image right here, and then you're going to go to Effects and Controls here. And right here, the scale, you can see this was 100%. If I go back to 100%, I need to be on that clip though. You can see at 100% I'm there, but when it set it to frame, it took it down to 27, which got more of the image in there. But I need to make it a little bit bigger so it stretches all the way to the edge. So about 32, 33. And I know that's going to be the same for all my images, so I need to go and do that to all of them. So I'm going to double click on the next image, go to Effects and Control, change it to 32, 33. Sometimes it's just easier to type 33, enter, go to the next. 33, enter, next. Rico's rear end there. 33, enter, next. Double click on it. 33, enter, next. This gets a little tedious. I wish there was a better way to do it. There might be, but this is the best I know of. So normally that's set to frame. The pictures would it would set it, but because of the dimensions of the images from the Nikon, they're not quite set to the same frame proportion. So almost there. You're probably done already because you didn't have that many images, so just hold on for 1 second. Here's my last one. Double click the image, go to Effects Control, set the scale to 33, enter. So now all my images are at the right proportion. There's Rico. All right, I'm looking good. This is great. So let's talk about some image transitions. So the first thing I might want to do is maybe kind of fade this in, my title in, and fade it out as we go into our movie. So we're going to need to use some effects for that. We also might want to maybe put some dissolve. So we dissolve from one image into the next to kind of add a smoothness to this. So how you do that is pretty easy. You're just going to go to Effects right here. So you've got your project window, and actually I'm going to collapse this. I'm not really going to be needing this anymore. But if you go over to Effects right here, and I essentially need video transition. So you could find it by collapsing this and then going to essentially dissolves. You can also just type in the word dissolve here as well. But I'm just going to throw some dip to blacks on here, just real quick. So essentially it's going to take everything and kind of fade it in for me. And then I'm just going to fade it back out. So all I'm doing is I'm clicking and dragging this onto the clip where I want it and right onto the end, and then I'm letting go. So click and drag and let go. So now it's going to also fade that out. And we're into my and we're into the movie. So from there, I might want to cross dissolve some of these images. So this dissolves right into this one. So I can simply do that. You see the cross dissolve here. I'm going to click it, drag it, and then cross dissolves because I want the image to dissolve one to the next. I'm going to put it right in the middle, not on the right side, not on the left side, but right in the middle of them, so that, and if you zoom in here, you can see that I put that right in the middle. So it'll kind of dissolve from one right into the next. I can also control that length of that dissolve by clicking it, and then I can make it longer here. I can make it longer by just pulling the edges. But I don't want that. But just for your information, click it, and then you can make the dissolves longer. So, all right, got a nice dissolve there.
And then I was looking for some lower third shots, and I found this nice one of this board.
And I meant to say rule of thirds there.
A little bit of a story.
And you can see that cut's pretty harsh, and I wasn't quite finished talking, so I'm going to throw another cross dissolve on there. Let's see what we got going from this one.
And then
I'm going to throw another one in there. Maybe pull back out. So remember, this is the best tool. You'll be using this the most right down here, this kind of zoom in, zoom out. So that'll be your best friend after a while. So then my next image, and actually I'm okay with that. Listen to how it transitions. It says and then. And sometimes you don't want to just keep cross dissolving. You want to mix up your cuts a little bit, so it's not, you know, the same thing over and over again, or your transition. So, and then that worked really well. And then, so I'm going to leave that. And there's kind of a natural pause there that allows for that next image to kind of just happen. So once again, I'm not going to add a transition.
Shallow depth of field to blur out the background. And then,
as well as there, I've got another and then.
A glass of wine, and then I saw this reflection coming off of the glass, and I thought, oh, that's perfect, it's beautiful. And then one of the last shots I got was...
And I think I'm going to cross dissolve that because my audio kind of goes over it.
Perfect, it's beautiful. And then one of the last shots I got was this frame within a frame.
And let's see, going from my last shot.
And then, of course, I saw this stop, and we're heading back to the car.
And that's fine with me. So the last thing I'm probably going to do here in my last shot is kind of, I want to fade it out or dip it to black. So, you know, people know the end. So once again, I'm just going to grab my dip to black, and you'll notice.
That's our trick.
And, you know, one of the things I don't, that drives me crazy is you'll hear.
That's our trick.
And the audio is still going, oops, as I fade it out. So I want to fade out that audio as well. So how you do that, you could literally just type in fade, and that'll give you, I would use this exponential fade, but let me show you where it is normally so you can just get it. So it's going to be in your audio transitions, crossfades, and this is exponential fade will just fade out the audio for you. So drag it on top. Let's see what we have.
That's our trick.
And so it's fading a little bit early. So once again, you can just kind of click and drag. And let me just do that again. So remember, you click, pull it onto the audio clip, and it'll tell you when you can drop it on the end. Almost all these transitions, because it's a transition, it's going to want to drop on the end. And then remember, you just can kind of, you'll get this little thing that allows you to make it shorter or longer.
That's our trick.
And boom. So now I don't have audio hanging over, like that static hanging over. I might want to do that on the beginning as well. So I'm going to go back to the beginning. You can zoom out if you want. It's up to you. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here. So we've got. So I am going to fade that in. Perfect. So now I've got my transitions in on my images. I've faded in my audio. Maybe I have a person that was in my that is in your project one that you need to put. You want to identify who they are, so you're going to want to put a lower third in. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. I think we'll put one in for Rico. So we're going to put a lower third identifying Rico. So once again, you can do this by going to graphics, or you can go to graphics up here in your menu, go to new layer, and then text. And then we can type here. So, but actually, I'm sorry, let's not do that. Let's back out of that. Let's do this a different way. Let's go to the graphics here. This will make it easier for us. So let's go to graphics here to change our to our different window here, our workflow. And then let's just take the basic lower third. This will make it much easier. And I can just drag it and drop it where Rico is right there. and it's asking me about that font. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to hit cancel. And then I'm just going to make this smaller so it fits within Rico's clip. So I need to go edit that text because I needed to say his name, and it actually it's getting lost. So I'm going to double click on the text, and I'm going to change this to Rico. And then I'm going to double click on the bottom text and change this to Superdog because he is. All right, so there we go. And then to kind of get out of this, I'm just going to click over here so I can get out of that text. But now you notice that you can't really see Rico Superdog because, you know, it's white and it's not showing up. So, and it's kind of interfering with Rico. And normally when you put your lower third in, you want it not to compete with your interviewee. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit V on my keyboard, which is basically a select to be able to make selection. And I'm going to hold the shift down as well, selecting both of them. And actually, while I'm here, I might move them a little bit, maybe down just a little bit, so I get a little more Rico there. And then what I essentially need to do is I need to add another, some color behind this so that we can see that Rico's there. So I'm going to add a new layer here. And I'm going to choose rectangle, and it's going to give me this red rectangle. And then I'm going to pull this layer below. I just drug it and pulled it below Superdog and Rico. So now that when I put it under here, it'll go under Rico's name. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. And then I want to just pull it out so I'm getting all of his name here. Maybe pull this down a little bit and change that color. The red's not really, I don't want it to jump out that much. So if I double click on it, or if I just grab, actually I'll just double click on it. I can change it here, but I'm going to take this and grab something from my scene. That's always nice. Maybe that blue, and hit OK. And now it kind of mixes more in my scene. So there I kind of have my lower third going, identifying who my dog is. And I probably don't need it on any longer than that.
Rico's my go-to guy here.
And I'm going to go ahead and add a dissolve to dissolve that out. I don't like the abruptness of it leaving the screen like that. So you could just put a dip to black on there or a dissolve. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. So now it just kind of goes away naturally.
And then I found it.
All right, so I've got my lower third in. Just about done here. One last thing I want to show you is you're going to notice sometimes when you're talking or your interviewee's talking, you're going to get a lot of ums and ands and things that aren't very interesting, and you're going to want to take them out of the audio because the more you hear the less you lose your viewer. So I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. I have one right there, and you hear the pop. So that and that pop are pretty annoying. So I'm going to go in and take those out. So I'm going to minimize this a little bit so that I can make this a little bit bigger. And you can also do it here if you want. And I'm going to pull this up. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to pull this up so I can see more of the screen down here. So there's my pop and my I'm going to come in tighter on that. Yeah, so you can hear my it starts here, and that pop stop is there. You can see the spike. So it's always good if you're going to make a cut to cut where there's not much sound and you can see the audio dips there. So I'm going to just hit C on my keyboard, which gives me basically a thing to cut things up. So, and then I'm just going to click once to put a cut there. And then I'm going to drag, there's that pop. And then I'm actually going to click here to put a cut there too. Then I'm going to click V again, V on my keyboard, which gives me my ability to select things. I'm going to select that and then just hit delete and it's gone. Zoom out a little bit and then I'm going to pull my audio back in tight again. So now when I listen, that should be gone and it should be a pretty smooth transition. That's not bad. I could clean that up a little. I could clean it up a little more, but that's already better. Okay, so that's essentially it. We are done. We've made our video. Make sure you save it. It oftentimes auto saves, but I'll just Command S to save. And then all you really need to do from here is export it. So you're going to go to File, Export, and then Media. Now, I like to use the .264 codec. You're like, what? But just trust me on this. It works the best with Vimeo and YouTube. So it's just a codec that compresses your allows your creates your file format. So that's exactly what we're going to do. You can see my output name here. This is kind of important because oftentimes you don't know where you put something. So if you just click on it, you can rename it to whatever you want, and then also tell it where you want to put it. So that's fine. That looks okay to me. You might want to rename yours last name hashtag or last name underscore stills. So when you turn it in, I know actually you're not going to turn it in, just put it on Vimeo. So it's up to you, whatever you want to call it. Then from there, I'm going to want to change the preset because I know this is going on Vimeo. I'm going to want to export it as Vimeo 1080p HD. If you're going YouTube, you could go 1080p HD. Because I'm going Vimeo, I'm going to go there, and it will automatically set those default settings that Vimeo uses. I'm just going to drag this back to the beginning because my timeline was right there, so I'm just going to drag it there. And then you would hit Export, and it would then render the audio and then start encoding the whole process. And when it's done, it'll put it on your desktop. And sometimes it takes quite a while. So that's just a minute of video, a minute and 20 of stills and video, and that's going to take, well, there we go, about 5 minutes. But I don't need to worry about that right now. So essentially, once you have that rendered and it's on your desktop, load it up to your Vimeo account, and then for today's assignment, make sure you include a link on your Vimeo, include the link, so upload it to Vimeo, and then there's a place on Polylearn. Go in and just paste your link in there because it is an assignment for today. So go into Polylearn under week 3, it should say Audios and Still Exercise. Click that and then turn in your link so I can go check it out. Okay, so without further ado, let's take a final look at my day at the beach. And remember, if you want to see one of these windows all by itself, just hit the tilde key, which is right below the escape key. And remember, play, just hit the space bar. One last thing, you're going to notice this quality here. As you're going, if you're getting a lot of lag in your machine, drop the quality. Right now, I just have it at 4th quality because my machine's not that fast. So if you're seeing a lot of lag when you're trying to play it back and the audio's out of sync or something, it's because your computer's having a hard time keeping up. So you can always drop the quality here. I'm going to go with half of this time when I play back. It should be okay. So let's take a quick listen.
So my wife and I decided to go to Avila Beach and check out the scenes there. So, you always need kind of a first establishing shot of you get that first view of the ocean. It's so beautiful. And then I was looking for some lower third shots, and I found this nice one of this boy and that kind of the beach regulations, kind of creating this little bit of a story. And you gotta take the dog. Rico's my go-to guy here. And then I found this nice shot of my wife looking into the ocean, giving her viewpoint of things. And then I also saw another shot that was kind of interesting with some leading lines of these pigeons walking forward. It's kind of neat, created a nice little shot. And then in addition to that, I wanted to get a close-up of some images, and I saw this birds of paradise. I'd never seen one before until I moved to California. So I kind of got a nice shallow depth of field and blurred out the background. And then from there, we had a glass of wine, and I saw this reflection coming off of the glass, and I thought, oh, that's perfect, it's beautiful. And then one of the last shots I got was this frame within a frame, where I was basically standing on the pier, and I shot through the wood slats of the pier to see the ocean, giving me this nice frame within a frame. And then, of course, I saw this stop, and we're heading back to the car. It's time to leave, so it was the perfect way to wrap up a nice day with this photo of a nice wide depth of field, giving in the whole scene where we started and where we ended. that's our trip.
Okay, so there you go. I did notice one thing here. So I'm going to get out of this. I just hit my tilde again, that the audio is a little soft. So what I might do, you'll see that there's just a line right here. I'm just going to click on that line and pull up. I'm going to raise it maybe 3.06 dB and do the same on the first part as well. And so now when I play, it should be louder.
Kind of the beach regulations, kind of creating this little bit of a story, and you got to take the dog.
So that brought up a little bit of the hiss of the recording too. I realized with the Olympus the other day when I was recording that I didn't have it maybe close enough to my mouth, maybe a little closer, and I could have avoided would have gotten more of my voice on a little bit of that hiss. So, but that's just a way you can quickly raise your audio. All right, there you go. Hope it went well for you guys.